First class postage with a private postal service costs 32 cents for all weights through 1 ounce, plus 23 cents for each ounce or fraction of an ounce thereafter. Each letter is required to carry one 32-cent stamp and as many of 23-cent stamps as necessary. We want to graph the function f that models the number of stamps y on a letter weighing x ounces over the interval from 0, where you're not including 0, to 5. So let's take a look at that. So here's our graph, and we want to figure out what that graph is. So the first thing is that we need to identify what represents the x-axis and what represents the y-axis, and that's extremely important. So we can see here that the number of stamps represents the y-axis. So the y-axis is the number of stamps. Okay? And then the x-axis is the weighing of the ounces. So therefore, this represents the number of ounces. So it's really important to understand that first. Okay, now when we create our particular graph, we need to figure out what's happening there. So that means that we have our values of x, and then we're going to have our values of y. Now remember, y is always going to contain the integers. Okay, so y is always going to be the integers when you're talking about the greatest integer function. Okay, so what it's saying here is what happens at 32 cents, right? So that means that if you have all weights through 1 ounce, okay, that means that if you have anything that weighs, because remember, this is the number of ounces, right? This is the number of ounces, and this represents the number of stamps needed for the amount of ounces. Okay, now for the first one, it says that all weights through 1 ounce. So that means that you're going from x, which is 0, to 1 ounces, right? And so if it's going from 0 to 1 ounce, that means that you're not going to include the 0, but then you're going to go all the way to 1 and then include the 1. Okay, so let's go ahead and then write that out here. Okay, so from 0, okay, we know that this is going to go from 0 to 1. So that's going to equal 1, because that's in between 0 and 1, and you're looking at the value that's less than 1. So that means at 0, you're going to have an open circle at 1 because it doesn't cost anything. At 0, if you have 0 ounces, it's not going to cost anything. But then everything up to 1 ounce, okay, is going to cost that 32 cents. Okay, now we're going to move on between 1 ounce, okay, let's go ahead, that's 1 ounce, to 2 ounces. Okay, so what that means is at 1 you're going to have an open circle, and then at 2 you're going to have a closed circle, and that means that that's going to equal 2. So the range of values from 0 to 2. So when our x is 1 ounce, it's not $2, but anything after 1 ounce is going to be $2. Okay, next, okay, we are going to go from 2 to 3 ounces. So that means at 2, we're not including it, but 3 we are. And so therefore, that means we're going to include up until 3. So then if you have 2 ounces, right? 2 ounces, that means you're not going to pay $3, you're paying 2, or excuse me, you're going to have 2 stamps, right? Not 3 stamps. But then as you increase after 2, then anything between 2 and 3, and not including 2, but including 3, is going to need 3 stamps. Okay, let's go to the next one. We're going to go from 3 ounces to 4 ounces. And again, that's going to go from 3 to 4, and you're including 4. So therefore, that's going to equal 4. So at 3, you're going to have an open circle at 4, and then it's going to go all the way to 4 with the closed dot. And then the last one, because that's what it's asking us to do the interval from 0 to 5. We're going to go to 4 to 5 ounces. So that's going to go from 4, parentheses 4 to 5 with a bracket. So again, what that's going to equal? That's going to equal 5. So that means you have an open circle at 4, and then it's going to have a closed circle of 5. So let's review this, okay? If you have a letter that is between 0 and 1 ounces, then that means you're going to be required with 1 stamp. Okay, now, if it weighed 0, you're not going to need a stamp. But anything beyond that is going to need 1 stamp. Now, anything between 1 and 2 ounces is going to require 2 stamps, but 1 is only going to require 1 if it's exactly 1. Okay, between 2 and 3, you're not going to include 2, but anything after 2, all the way to 3 ounces is going to need 3 stamps. Anything from 3 ounces to 4, and not including 3, is going to need 4 stamps if it weighs that much. And if it weighs anything between 4 and 5 ounces and not including 4, you're going to need 5 stamps. So now let's go ahead and take a look at which graph this is going to be. So here we're going from 0 to 1 here, right? And then you have closed circle, closed circle, closed circle, closed circle. So it's not going to be A, because you have to have at least 1 open circle over here. Over here, you have an open circle, and then a closed, closed, closed. So that's not going to work here. Here, this is going to resemble B. You have 0. It's not going to be, so if it's 0 ounces, it matches our graph. Let's select B. And there is our answer.